Hey, boys and girls, it's The Upgrade. And today, we're going to be talking about horror stuff. And I'm not talking about politics for once. So, no Trump talk. We'll be talking about horror movies and some other genre-type movies and shows and things like that. I am Gary Muttley. He is Len Carmichael. And our special guest, once again, is the amazing John Wren.
Welcome, John Wren.
You have to play some like yay, like or like a laugh track when he says my name.
Or just definitely gonna be a laugh track.
Just put another Twisted Tea can sound.
Whap! The most satisfying video on the internet.
Smack me.
Yeah.
You should just make the intro music that Phil Collins thing that I posted.
Oh yeah, that's so good too.
Best thing about that is the fucking Dave Matthews thing. I don't even like.
Oh yeah,
Dave Matthews one's better. There's
so many of them now. There's the Dave Matthews one. There's the 9 Inch Nails Closer one. I sat here past couple of nights. I forget if it was the last night because everything blends together when you're working from home. But me and my girlfriend just sat on the couch, just watching video after video of like Twisted Tea remixes.
Oh, Jesus.
And it was so good.
I'm sure.
Each one better than the last one. The Dave Matthews one was great, but then there were a couple of hip hop ones also. Oh my God, that shit is good for days and days of entertainment.
Pure gold.
And the memes just never stop.
Yo, that dude must be living in an absolute nightmare scenario now, because he just begged for it and he got everything he asked for.
Somebody outed that dude's Facebook.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Picture him in a suit and somebody was like, "Yo, I guess he cleaned up for church after that."
He needs to.
After seeing Jesus.
He got hit so hard he found Jesus.
Oh,
okay.
He saw the light. The light was just an oncoming can. That shit is good for so much entertainment. I can't get enough of it. It's so ridiculous. Oh man.
So now we join our regularly scheduled conversation already in progress.
Yes. We could talk a little bit about The Stand, John.
Oh, shit, I haven't watched it. I wanted to watch it, but I didn't get around to it yet.
Did you read the book?
No, I didn't read the book.
Well, then, you know what? Honestly, if you want to... Did you watch the 94 series?
I did.
That captures the spirit of the book better than what the show is doing so far. Mick Garris, for all his flaws... in the 94, it was on the network television in 94, so I
used to own that on VHS.
Yes, I taped it the night, like the 4 nights that it aired, I taped it. But they, like, for all the flaws it had being on network television in 1994, it was told the way the story needs to be told. This new version's telling it like out of order and kind of like throws everyone for a loop. I have a guy at work that's watching it right now that has never read the book either, and he's all sorts of confused on it right now.
Okay.
It is pretty weird. I mean, it's interesting. It's a different take, and I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to approach it differently, but it's definitely pretty weird.
Well, then...
I don't hate it. It's just very different.
I think I'll still be okay since I watched the original one.
Yeah.
But it's on my list of things to check out. The Expanse is also on my list of things to check out.
The Expanse is heavy.
I started watching Westworld.
Oh, see, dude, now you're talking, because even if you just watch season 1 of Westworld, it's fucking perfect.
Well, I'm like 7 episodes in on season 1, and then I got pulled away into something else. You know how it goes.
Yeah,
like
the other seasons are not bad.
Mm-hmm.
They get kind of weird, especially the last one. But
the last one's basically Blade Runner.
Yeah, it definitely is going in that direction. But the first one is just from beginning to end phenomenal. phenomenal.
Well,
much like The Mandalorian.
Well, that I finished and loved it. End to end, loved it.
I told you that end, that payoff is just woo.
See, I had a friend tell me that the payoff was bullshit because they're sick of Luke.
That friend is not your friend. Letting you know right now.
This story.
Was it John Wren that told you that?
No.
Okay.
Did you watch, John? Did I just ruin it? Okay.
No. Oh my God, you ruined it. I'm going to fight both of you now.
All right, I'm going to tell you right now. There is no way you're beating both of us at the same time. One at a time, maybe. But both of us at the same time, you got no chance for it.
Out of shape and all, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All it takes is one. Like Tank Abbott. All it takes is one. Your best bet is running.
Well, that easily would be the way out. So, Wren, I hadn't watched Mandalorian at all until maybe like a week before Christmas. Maybe it was a little bit before that. But once I got started, I was just like breezing through the episodes because they're reasonably short. And I knew that something big had to have happened for everybody to be jizzing all over the internet. But I had avoided all spoilers. Anytime anybody said anything about Mandalorian as I was scrolling, I would not read any further than I was like, nope, scroll. Just because I didn't want anybody to spoil it on the internet for me. So when I got to that last episode, as the TIE Fighter comes through, I was like, everybody's jizzing. I bet I know who this is. And then I saw the green lightsaber and I was like, oh, it's Luke. It's definitely Luke.
Yeah, so I watched that episode at 4:00 in the morning before I went to work because I was like, I knew that if I fucking went on Twitter for like 3 seconds, whatever happened was gonna be spoiled.
Yep.
So after I watched that episode, when I was at work, I went on Twitter and was like fucking around, and people literally live time spoiled that at like 12:30 in the morning.
Real.
Like they were like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm seeing this as it was happening, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, I give 24 hours before you get spoiled, like on something like that, but like they're like literally live time spoiling, and I'm like, you're out of your fucking. I would, if it was one of my friends, I'd be at their door at 5 o'clock in the morning and be like, now we're going.
Oh my God. Fuck that. I was very careful not to spoil it, but I said, listen, if you're a fan, watch this motherfucker immediately.
So my thing is you can like mute certain words on Twitter, but like I honestly didn't expect Luke to show up. So I wouldn't have muted Luke Skywalker and that shit would have been spoiled for me in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I didn't expect it either. And then when it happened, I was just like I saw the green lightsaber and I was like, nah. And then I saw the glove. I was like, fuck. Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
He tore those Dark Troopers up.
That's not all he tore up. He tore up fans like crazy because grown men were reduced to tears. Grown man right here.
I didn't have tears. I was excited. It didn't elicit that from me.
I was in such shock. I wasn't in tears, but I was just like, whoa. But it's like I told you when we were talking with Andy. It's like a thank you to the fans. It's like, you know what? Thank you for being a fan. We love you. We want you to have this. We want you to have this moment. Just like the way, if you like Marvel, Avengers Endgame was the same thing. Because the fight at the end of Endgame was just the holy fuck, like this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen moment. And I told you last week,
I've never watched Endgame, so honestly, I really only have maybe seen 2 movies in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe.
The sad thing is that the Endgame, like the moment in Endgame, the cap on your left moment, which Gary knows what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It's too late for it now for you, but like in the theater, opening night, and I actually got to see it like 2 times in the opening week. I got to go to a press screening first, and even at the press screening,
I got to go to a press screening first.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, even full of a bunch of fucking stuck-up critics, that moment, like, blew, like, it was something. I've never experienced that. As someone that goes to like 100 movies a year, like, I'd never experienced that in my life. Like 10 years of build up to that, like one like that, and when Kat picks up Mjolnir, like those 2 moments specifically, like you don't get that. Like I can't think of anything that like maybe the Luke I am your father moment, like in a different aspect of like sucking the air out of the room, which probably had something similar. But like I personally have never experienced such a, everyone in the room went holy shit and started and like grown men started cheering at a fucking movie because that scene happened, and then it was crazy. And
it's so funny you say that, because last week, the year-end wrap-up, when we were talking about this, I mentioned, Len, that the whole I am your father thing was like the holy shit moment of our generation.
Right.
Like there's nothing now, because with spoilers and the internet and everything else, like people know about it the day they film it. But that was such a big secret that when it happened, everybody was just like, whoa. And Endgame had a bunch of moments like that because it kept the thing so under wraps. And listen, Mandalorian too, because Mark Hamill was like, I can't believe that nobody fucking leaked this thing, you know? And it's just, it's so good. And it's so nice to be a fan and not be fucking insulted. Like when you watch anything that Vince McMahon puts out right now, or a lot of the DC stuff, because the new Wonder Woman,
I heard it was terrible. I didn't watch it.
Not very good.
I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it either, but I didn't love it. And granted, the only one of the DC movies that, you know, other than the unrelated Batman stuff, like The Dark Knight, the only DC movie that I actually really thoroughly enjoyed was Aquaman.
No, I liked the first Wonder Woman, Shazam, and Birds of Prey.
Shazam was okay. Birds of Prey was okay. But I mean, I hated Man of Steel. I didn't even fully watch Justice League or Batman.
That's all right, man. This fucking Snyder Cut's coming. The 8-hour Snyder Cut or whatever.
Yeah. Let's see how much we can.
That's all we need.
Let's see how much we can polish a turd. Like they would have been better off just spending that money on making a new movie instead of just trying to fucking polish that junk.
Well, he had a plan to do 2 movies, and he already spoiled his second movie because he said that had he gotten his way and he finished his version of Justice League 2 was going to kill Batman off. And he already like said that. And I'm like, why would you fucking say that? I'm like, let your stupid movie come out, and if it does well, then make your dumb second movie and kill Batman there.
Yeah, I don't even care, because
kill them all.
The rest of it was just. And I'm not a DC hater. Yeah, I'm more of a Marvel fan, but Jesus Christ, I mean, Man of Steel was so terrible.
As somebody who doesn't watch really either one of those type of movies, what makes the Marvel movies so much better than the DC movies? Is it just the writing? Is it the acting? Is it a combination?
Well, John, you go.
I would say it's a combination. They seem to know how to. Well, one, they had a whole story. They had an idea, almost from, if I remember, it wasn't as early as like Iron Man or Incredible Hulk. It was like 2 or 3 films in that they had this whole idea. Like, we're going to do the Avengers. We're going to build to Thanos. We're going to do this like whole thing. And they had like a 10-year plan. And having that 10-year plan like laid out even before they filmed like most of the movies seemed to put them in a better running to tell a better story. Like, some people will argue that the Marvel movies are kind of like cookie cutter, like every movie is the same thing, or at least each of the individual trilogies are basically the same thing. Uh-huh. But I still think that they blend their comedy, action, suspense, drama, like all that very well. And I think that they continuously go out and find like great teams to do this. Like Zack Snyder, I think the only thing I liked by him before that was the Dawn of the Dead remake. Like, I don't really like Zack Snyder.
Which is funny because so many people hated that Dawn of the Dead remake.
I fucking hate that movie.
See, I see the original Dawn of the Dead is a classic, and it's probably arguably the best zombie movie. It's not my favorite, but I would say it's arguably the best zombie movie that was ever made. But I liked the sequel a lot because, dude, if those things can fucking chase you, like for all the marathons and shit that I can do, I'm still getting caught and eaten. Like that's terrifying. Like, but I just don't think DC, like now they have James Gunn doing their second Suicide Squad, and that's probably going to be good. But even then, there's like 7,000 characters in that I don't know how he's going to balance that. But I just think that DC took like a weird hodgepodge approach. They even came out and said that they didn't want to do a 10-year build. Every movie was supposed to stand on its own, but also kind of relate to the bigger picture. Like they don't seem to have an idea, and that mass confusion of what they want to do in the overall thing seems to muddy up like how their movies are. I think if DC just said, we're not doing a Justice League, we're just going to have a Flash movie and a Superman movie and a Batman movie and a Wonder Woman movie, they probably could have told better stories. But they want to do what Marvel did. They want to get to their group Avenger, and they rushed into it, and it's a mess.
In all fairness, I think they decided to abandon that idea after a couple of those movies already tanked. But not to go into a thing like I did on the last episode and repeat myself, but I think, as I said on that episode, one of the things that Marvel does that DC doesn't, and Star Wars was guilty of this too, and now they're trying to fix it, is not respecting the source material. These characters have been so popular for so long, because like I mentioned, with DC and Marvel, you're talking about characters that go back to the 30s. There's a reason they connected with people for so long. And when you take them and change them for the sake of trying to make them all more dark or gritty or whatever bullshit keyword you want to use, that's the problem with a lot of these movies. And Marvel has done a great job with respecting that source material. Even if you make some changes to some of these characters, it's not for something ridiculous. It suits the story, and it enhances the story, and it keeps the fans engaged in the whole thing. Because you can jump into any of these Marvel movies and watch one, and it's great. But if you watch every single one, which I have, there's little things that pay off later on. There's little bits and pieces, little Easter eggs that reward you, and you're just like, oh, that's cool. But with Endgame, it was a big payoff. There were a lot of things that paid off going back to the first Iron Man movie, and you're just like, wow, they really had a plan from early on. They may have adjusted that plan slightly in a couple of different ways, but overall, they had a plan. They had somebody overseeing the whole thing. Like we talked about with Star Wars, with the sequels, where it just ended up just going all over the place and not really having a cohesion to it. These Marvel movies had a cohesion to them from beginning to end. Some people say they're cookie cutter. I don't necessarily agree, because you could see a difference in each of them. But in the end, they form a bigger universe that you feel a connection to if you're a fan. And I understand those movies aren't for some people. Some people don't like them. Same way some people don't like Star Wars. I don't know what's wrong with them. But some people don't like Star Trek. Some people don't like... Listen, I don't like the Fast and the Furious.
I don't like Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
I don't
but
like
so
Star
many people
Trek.
are, you don't like Fast and the Furious? Like, no, it doesn't do anything for me. But that's how it is. But when you have something like that, and for the cookie cutter argument, I would say, look, you've got these movies. They're all different types of movies. Like Captain America: Civil War was almost like a political thriller, like one of these Bourne Identity type of movies.
That's my favorite film of the whole series.
Guardians of the Galaxy was almost like Star Wars. A lot of it, the Ant-Man movies were kind of almost like heist movies, like The Italian Job or something. So people could say they're cookie cutter, but they're going in such different directions. They're all interconnected, but they're all hitting very different genres, really, yet still tied into that main universe. So that, to me, is another big thing that they've done that really helps to make it interesting and keep it enjoyable for me. And I'm a diehard comic book fan, always read comic books since I was a little kid. But even for people that haven't read comic books, a lot of them are drawn to it because it's a well done story. It's not dismissive like what I was saying with the sequel trilogy with Star Wars. Like, they start to lead you in certain directions, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that doesn't matter. You don't need that. Don't worry about that."
My mom was a huge comic book fan, and she tried really hard to get me to read comic books, like exceptionally hard. But my issue is that, for me, it's not that I'm stupid, because clearly I'm not stupid. But
the jury's out.
Questionable. I can't read and absorb the material in any sort of way where it would make it fun to read. So every page I read, I have to read 3 or 4 times, maybe even 5 times to like get it. And it really slows down my interest in continuing.
You just don't like reading cells?
It's not even just reading cells, it's reading in general. Like, I can read, like, it's why I have read 2 books front to back in my entire life. One was Ric Flair's autobiography, but I sat down on the toilet and I just put it next to the toilet, so I was reading a page or 2 at a time, and it took me a year and a half to get through the book. And then I read the Zombie Survival Guide while I was on tour, but I was, I'm between driving and this, that, and the other thing, so I'm reading a couple pages here and there. But while we were out, I read the whole book while we were out. But otherwise, I've never been able to find the concentration to sit down and read. So my mom would buy me these comic books back in the day, and they would literally just sit there because I could not bring myself to read them.
Dude, you still got them? Because I'm sure you got some gems in there.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and...
Yeah, depending on how old.
I'll give you $20 for the box.
Well, I'm talking the 80s. My mom had collections, but they all got ruined in a flood.
Oh, that sucks.
She had them in the basement, and the basement flooded, and she lost. I mean, she had Superman #1. Like, she had them all because she was a collector.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not saying it was in it was in red condition. It wasn't like
even shit versions of Action Comics 1 is still worth like $100 and some thousand.
Oh yeah, because they're so rare.
But literally, all her entire collection got wiped out in one flood.
My heart. I'm gonna pour some out for them later.
Yeah, they're so rare because that was before the days of like bags and boards and all that shit.
Right.
Also, you used to just buy them for like a quarter. You would read them. They were almost like the Sunday comics. I remember like the original like Detective Comics and whatnot. They just like people just threw them out. They read them real fast. They're like, oh, that was fun, and just fucking tossed them.
Yeah, nobody thought to keep them.
Thousands of dollars now.
It was like a newspaper.
Yeah,
nobody
pretty
thought
much
to keep it. But now, if you were lucky enough to keep one, that shit'll put your kid through college.
Buy you a whole new house.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Wren, you mentioned that Dawn of the Dead may be one of the best zombie movies, but it's not your favorite. What is your favorite zombie movie?
The original Night of the Living Dead. The one before that.
Okay.
The Romero version. Because when I first saw that, the idea of like my neighbors coming back and like eating me like terrified me as a kid. Like, because the way that they looked in the original one, and it's, due to the fact it was 1968 and the budget was probably like $12, they looked like you're like, oh, like these were people from the neighborhood. They always knew them. They're like, oh my God, that's Mr. Magruder. Like, they knew these people. And like the idea, especially when I saw it as a young kid,
How old were you when you saw it?
What?
How old were you when you saw it?
Shit, probably like 6.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What's wrong with your parents?
My parents were young. My mom was 17 when she had me. My dad was 20 when I was born. So I used to watch my mom used to watch all these like horror movies, and I was the shield because I didn't know what, like when she was like, when something was too scary, she put the baby in front of her face. So I didn't.
Jesus.
So, but But it explains a lot, right?
You watch it. I don't want to watch it.
No, but there's certain
little kid, watch this. It's no big deal.
There's certain things. Well, no, there were certain movies that I was like, she would not let me watch. Like I was allowed to watch some of the Freddy movies, but later, like when he started getting funny, like the Dream Warriors on. I wasn't allowed to watch any of like the Friday the 13th because they were serious. I mean, I saw The Exorcist when I was like 8 or 9.
Oh, that's rough, bro.
Wait. The story. People always find this story funny. So when I saw The Exorcist, it was the original Monster Vision, but it wasn't Monster Vision. It was whatever that show was that Joe Bob Briggs hosted before Monster Vision.
Yeah, straight up, Joe Bob Briggs was my guy.
Yeah. So he did. So one night they did The Exorcist and I want to say it was Swamp Thing. I can't remember what the second film was or the first film was. So the first film, I told my dad that I wanted to watch The Exorcist, and he's like, I don't know, that's a really scary movie. And I was like, no. I'm like, I'll be all right. He's like, no, I'm letting you know, it's like one of the scariest movies ever. And I was like, yeah, but in Beetlejuice, he says it's really funny. And so, when he says, like, I've seen it 167 times, it keeps getting funnier. So I was under the impression this was a comedy. So my dad set me up, and he was like, fine, you can watch it. Don't come into my room. I don't care if you have nightmares.
Deal with it. Deal with it on your own.
Yeah, so I watched it at midnight.
How old were you?
On like I said, it was. I think this was like 1989, so maybe 1990.
Jesus Christ!
Wow. So they set me up. So I watched it and
set you up all right.
When it was over and I turned the TV off, I ran so fast up the steps, I'm not sure I touched the ground. And went right to my.
Oh man.
I proceeded to, just fucking sit there thinking
yourself.
that Reagan was.
I was going to say, did you leave a brown trail going up the steps?
I might have. But you know what, though? After I saw that, to me, there's never been a scarier movie. I've never seen anything scarier than The Exorcist. There's movies that have gotten me to move, like say something more recently, like Hereditary. Hereditary made my, like, fucking blood pressure go up. Like, I was just, like, on edge the whole time, but I don't know that I've ever been like scared. Like I really thought the devil was gonna fucking get me after watching The Exorcist, and and maybe it's because I watched it when I did. Maybe I would feel differently about movies, but I've never been as scared of a movie in my life. And I still watch that movie, and it's still weird to me. Like when I watch The Exorcist, I love it. I've seen it 167 times at this point, but I can't say that it's gotten funnier.
So I didn't watch The Exorcist until I was probably 16.
That's a more respectful age to watch that fucking movie. Not 9.
By the time I saw it, I was already like 50% jaded towards horror movies in general. So I was just like watching it. I was like, this is bullshit. Fuck out of here. Like the whole time until till Reagan's head turns all the way around and she starts spewing the green shit. And I'm like, whoa. Whoa. All
right, now it's serious.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. By the time I saw it, I used to be really scared of horror movies when I was a kid, and then at some point, something just snapped, and suddenly I wasn't worried about it anymore, and I started watching tons of horror movies. And by the time I saw The Exorcist, just like you, Len, I was kind of jaded at that point. Like it didn't scare the shit out of me, but I mean, very few movies really scared the shit out of me.
I will say that I saw it the first time I saw it. It did not have the extra scenes that the original release had in it, where like she went up the stairs backwards on her fingers and toes. Right. Like that shit would have freaked me out if I had seen that at like 15 or 16. Like it wouldn't. My brain wouldn't have been able to process that.
I will tell you, the one movie that scared me, but not for the reason that you would expect, and it was that scene. And when I say what movie it is, you'll know exactly what scene I'm talking about. In The Serpent and the Rainbow.
I actually never saw it. So
you never saw that?
No.
Ren, did you see that?
Yeah, I've seen it.
You know what scene I'm talking about?
You can go with the scene, but I find that movie to be kind of boring. But go ahead.
Where they put the spike through the dude's nuts. I watched an entire movie theater.
Yeah, well, that's terrifying for way different reasons.
That's what I'm saying. I watched an entire theater jump out of their seats. Every dude in that room jumped out of their fucking chair.
So, the first horror-esque movie that I sat down and watched on my own, I was 11, and my mom had gone out for the night. I don't know where she went. I think she might have been out with my aunt, like on an overnight to New York City or whatever. And I'm sitting at the house, because we lived in an apartment. It was just me and my mom, and she's gone, and it's, I don't know, 12:30, and I'm still up because I'm living it up. She's not home, and I'm just, drinking soda and just popping bottles, the whole deal. And Psycho comes on, and I'm like, all right, how bad could this be? So I'm watching the whole movie, and like the whole movie is creepy, but it's not like some like weird scary movie, you know what I mean? Like even the shower scene, and I'm not spoiling anything. If you haven't seen Psycho at this point, fuck off. The shower scene is wild, but it's not scary. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't scared by that scene. Like you could see that coming. But when you get to the end of the movie I was too young to have figured out what the fuck was going on. So that chair spun around and my whole night was ruined. It's like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning at this point when the movie ends. Every light in the house came on, all of them, and I was like, I'm never gonna sleep again. Never gonna sleep again. What the fuck did I just do to myself?
Hitchcock's my dude too.
So on my phone, that is my phone background.
Nice.
I have that. I have in the other room up on my wall. I have a print of that same photo.
It's obviously an iconic photo, but I love Hitchcock.
I used to go to sleep watching that, or Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and The Twilight Zone. I used to watch those, to basically put me to sleep. I mean, I would watch episodes, but they would play like 6 or 7 episodes in a row at like 11 o'clock at night.
Yep.
And I would just go to sleep watching Hitchcock and The Twilight Zone.
And it's so funny you say that because I was about to mention The Twilight Zone because Hitchcock was okay. Like I never really got too deep into Hitchcock, but Twilight Zone was my shit. I fucking loved it.
Watch The Birds. Have you ever watched The Birds?
Not in a very long time. I mean, I know I've watched it. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate Hitchcock. It just didn't grab me because I've always said I'm less of a horror guy than you guys are, and I'm much more of a sci-fi guy.
Most of Hitchcock stuff's more suspense than it is like horror, because I would argue that Vertigo is probably his best film, and that's not a horror film.
Yeah, Vertigo is pretty fucking good too.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely watched some of them. I probably haven't watched them in a very long time, but I was always more into the weird sci-fi type of stuff, and Twilight Zone definitely went in that direction.
Because, like, Rear Window is fucking amazing to this day. North by Northwest is amazing. Like, there's like a period of time from, like, I'm going to say 1952 to like 1963 where he basically murdered it with every single release. There isn't really even a bad movie in the bunch. Like Dial M for Murder is fucking amazing. Vertigo, as mentioned, probably the best one he put out. So
yeah, I'd have to go back and give him another shot because it's been so long.
Yeah, you could probably run from Dial M for Murder in 54 all the way up to The Birds in 63, and he was pretty much, that was like
just
that
killing
was peak.
I mean, you got The Man Who Knew Too Much is in there.
Yeah, I'm not hating it all. It's just it didn't grab me the same way, but it's been so long. So if I revisit it, I might look at it a little differently. But Twilight Zone and like Outer Limits and all that crazy shit, that was all.
Twilight Zone used to fuck me up.
Oh, I loved it.
Because it just gets into your mind. Did either of you watch the updated Twilight Zone that was on?
I watched the first episode so I just got that CBS All Access because of the stands, and I'm canceling it as soon as the stand's over. So I watched like a couple episodes of the Twilight Zone stuff, and they did some like throwback stuff, like throwback episodes to like the classics, and it was fine. They did the Terror at 10,000 feet. Like
no, they did that. That's the one that. Oh, fuck. And
I only watched the first episode. That's it. Like I keep saying, I'll go back and watch more, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't. Like Jordan Peele, like obviously, like he produced it, so he like the team that's like working on it, like it's produced very well. It's very polished, but it doesn't. I don't know. There's something about it that hasn't grabbed me like the old. Like I would much rather just go back and watch the old stuff that was, it
doesn't
dated in look.
It doesn't have the same character to it because even when you compare it to like other times they've done the Twilight Zone, it's not.
Yeah, I would say that the movie that they did in the 80s captures the feel of the Twilight Zone way better than the show does.
Yeah, but even like the other anthology shows like Tales from the Dark Side or like Creepshow, like those jumped out at me a little more than this new Twilight Zone.
Creepshow ruined an entire month for me. Creepshow 2, I think it might have been.
Hey, lady, thanks for the ride.
Yes, that's it. That was the one. So I was hanging out with this kid, Chris, that I knew from, like, summer camp. So we're talking, like, 7th, 8th grade. And, we hung out one night at his house, and we watched Creepshow. Kind of fucked me up that night, but then the next day my mom picked me up, and we were going somewhere. And we were stopping at my dad's house. And as I'm getting in the car, he says it. And he hit it with the right voice, the right inflection, the whole thing. And I swear to you, I broke into tears. And my mom's like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I can't get in the back seat. I'm never getting in the back seat again. And she's like, why? And he's still going on in the back seat because he's a dickhead. And I'm like, he had us watch fucking Creepshow 2 last night, and now I can't do anything. I can't even move from this. I'm going to just stand on the sidewalk. I am not getting in the car.
See, I had that with a different part of that movie because I saw Jaws when I was really young, and it totally fucked me up. My dad took me to see it when I was really young, and like to this day, I don't fuck with water except like pools. So like I won't fuck with ocean, but I won't.
About the scene where they're out in the lake.
Yeah, the raft. Because of the raft, I won't fuck with lakes either. Like nope.
That scene did nothing.
If I see algae, get the fuck away from me.
That no, like I won't even go near it. And I was already that way because of Jaws, but the raft just reinforced it with me because the raft was just like fuck.
Yo, so let me put it this way. Creepshow 2 fucked me up so hard that I've never watched it again. I have never watched it again. I refuse. I don't own it. I've seen Creepshow 1, and it's perfectly fine. Because nothing in there, like, dug into my psyche. Like, thanks for the ride, lady.
You don't want me to bring it up the next time I'm up your way?
I might punch you.
He's gonna hide under your car.
No, it's just the back seat. Just be in the back seat. And you just watch, you'll get stabbed. I won't even have anything, but I will create something to stab you with.
I'll wear that fucking long trench coat and hat.
God.
Oh man.
With the sign.
That shit was rough. Like I remember like most of that movie, but once I got to that point in the movie, I think that was the next to last story in the thing. I don't even remember what the last part was because my mind was so fixated.
Wasn't the raft last? I think the raft was last.
The Hitchhiker was last.
The Hitchhiker was last? Okay.
I'm looking at Wikipedia now. It was Old Chief Woodenhead, the raft, and Hitchhiker.
Yeah, but the Hitchhiker fucked me up. And I definitely did not sleep that night. And I did not sleep for like a whole nother week.
I mean, oh man.
What? So Wren, other than The Exorcist, what other movie like completely fucked you? Hereditary notwithstanding, because we saw that together.
Yeah, I mean, that didn't fuck me up. That was just one of those ones with that never-ending like doom. Like it was so, you just knew something was coming. It was just dread the whole time. So that didn't like fuck me up in that aspect, but like it didn't scare me. I just was like, they just kept piling on, and then that like 10-minute climax where everything goes fucking ape shit is.
Gary, did you see Hereditary?
No.
All right, I don't want to ruin Hereditary for you.
You can, because the chances of me seeing it are I don't want to say nil, but
you can sum it up without spoiling it. Basically, it's a slow burn movie where there's a lot of doom and gloom. It's a lot of like dealing with grieving. A character dies early on in the film, pretty brutally too.
Okay,
and it mostly follows this mother like grieving, but then when it gets to like the last act of the film, it like flips its script like completely and goes completely fucking crazy. And like there's just you have to watch it because it's the payoff getting to the climax is worth it, because you're gonna watch it and be like, what the fuck?
Yo, I mean,
and Toni Collette should have fucking won Toni Collette should have won an Oscar for that film, because there's a scene specifically at the table where she's dealing with this grieving, and the father, the son, and her are at the dining room table, and her like pain and anger like comes out. You just see in her face, like it's that scene. It's probably not even like, a lot of people probably look over that scene, but that
scene is like. That's the middle part of the movie, and that's where the movie starts to shift.
Yeah, and she gives this performance just in this like conversation that she's having with her husband and son, and you see all the emotions going through her face. Like her face contorts like as she's saying things, because she's letting it all out. And I'm like, wow. Like when that scene was over, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, if she's not nominated, she got fucking robbed. And she didn't even get nominated, which was crazy.
Yeah, she got totally robbed.
Yeah. That scene alone, like she's amazing throughout the whole movie, and I think she's an amazing actress to begin with, but like that one scene should have gotten her a nomination. But because it's a horror movie, they usually like skip over that shit.
That's what I was just gonna say. The horror movies never get any love. Just like metal never gets any respect most of the time. Jethro Tull.
I'm going to tell you, it took me a while to convince Megan to watch this movie. But then when we're watching it, she's like, I can't believe you forced me to watch this fucking movie. This is terrifying. And it's not that it's not really gory. There's like maybe 3 or 4 things in the whole movie that are gory. It's a psychological thriller with aspects of horror movie, but the movie is legitimately, the cinematography of this movie is insane. And that was one of the things we were discussing, because I was actually on Wren's podcast that he had previously, discussing this movie afterwards. Right. And like the movie is beautifully shot. Every single scene is perfect. There isn't a point where you're like, man, that's a throwaway capture of video. No, it's perfect end to end. The story is really good. It's actually probably my favorite quote unquote horror movie of the last 10 years.
Okay. So you're convincing me.
But it's heavy. Very heavy to watch until you get right down to the very end. And then the very end, I want to see the director's cut of this movie. Because there has to be, I swear there's 20 to 30 minutes of footage that they did not put in this movie because it was going to be too long or too weird, that would explain all the weirdness at the end of the movie.
Maybe. I mean, I like it as is.
I like it, but I still want to see the other cut.
Fair enough.
I'm laughing because I'm looking at Wikipedia, and here's a funny little story about Hereditary. The trailer came out January 30th, 2018, and in one theater in Western Australia, they accidentally played the trailer before the movie Peter Rabbit.
Oh, Jesus.
So it created a small panic in the theater, The theater was full of families, including at least 40 children. Oops.
That's awesome. Tyler Durden got his hands on that one.
Sorry. Oh, that's funny.
So, did either of you see the post I had where I was rating movies and rating records and whatever, bands, etc.?
Yeah, no, I commented a couple times.
Yes, you did. You both did.
I threw a couple of bands in there. I didn't get involved in the movie discussion.
Some of these movies people were suggesting are just like, you actually watched that?
Did anybody suggest Blair Witch 2?
No, they didn't, but I'm glad they didn't, because it would have definitely gotten embarrassing out of me.
Yeah, that person is not your friend.
But somebody suggested SLC Punk, and I'm like, what kind of fucking idiot would watch that movie? That movie's fucking terrible.
The thing about SLC Punk is I remember liking that when it first came out. I was in like high school. I was in like early high school when that first came out. And I went back and watched it probably like, I don't know, 5 years ago. And I was like, well, I had dog shit taste when I was in high school. And then I think they made a sequel to it or some shit. Like in the last like 10 years, they made a sequel to it, which I have no idea I have no idea what it's about if it exists. But I thought they made a sequel and I never watched it. But I used to think that movie was way better than it was, and I was wrong.
See, I was like definitely in my late teens, early 20s when that movie came out, and I was just like, yeah, this ain't it. This just ain't it. I have no interest in watching. Like, I maybe watched half an hour of the movie.
I think I was just so obsessed with skate movies and punk, like what would be punk back then, because I watched shit like Kids and stuff like that. Like, so I felt like
Kids, I loved Kids.
Well, Kids is way different. Kids is like a fucking horror movie, but like,
it really is.
Yeah.
But I think when I was watching stuff like that, that's why SLC Punk like fell in there, and like the whole, what the hell was that stupid character's name, Heroin Dan or some shit like that. Like, I forget what the fuck.
Bob.
Yeah, I was like all that stuff, and I was just like, and I did like Matthew Lillard from like, because he did Scream and Hackers and shit like that, and I think I tried to like, I don't know, I know that I liked it when I was a kid, and I watched it like a couple years ago, and I was like, this movie's not good.
So somebody actually suggested Scream, so I actually rated it, and I said that, the original Scream was, I think I put it in the love it category. So like the categories were
for horror, but then also ruined it. But keep going.
So the categories are like top tier shit, loved it, cool, not horrible, basically, and embarrassing, and then of course like I didn't see it. And I'm pretty sure that I put the original Scream as loved it, and Scream 2 as like not a big deal, like okay, fine, and then the rest were all embarrassing, because I honestly can't even put my finger on what is so bad about all the follow-ups. The original one was fun and cool, even though it spawned so many shitty
bad,
like combinations of the same thing, and like it's fucking painful. But I enjoyed the first one when it originally came out. It's still rewatchable for that matter. But part 2 was like, you're kind of screwing the pooch, and then part 3 and 4, I didn't even realize 4 came out until recently. And
4 was the one that came out like a couple of years ago, right?
Right, and I didn't see it. But I'm saying I didn't even realize it came out.
I think I only saw the first one, and that was it.
You're better off.
I saw the first two. I saw the first 2, and then I saw parts of the third one, but I had the ending spoiled, so I found out who the killer was, and I was like, well, that's stupid. But the first one to me is one of those, it like, gets its notch in like the important horror films, because I think it changed it was something that was needed. Horror was kind of like dying at that time. So when Scream came out and it kind of parodied, like it basically broke all the rules. It told you the rules. Like it broke the fourth wall in that sense. I thought that was a very smart and needed like jump start to get horror back like in the mainstream. But as Len said, like basically everything that came after that was cookie cutter. It was shot the same. It had that weird like blue tint to it or whatever.
The good thing was that it brought horror out to the mainstream a little bit. The bad part was that it brought horror out to the mainstream.
I would argue the only good film of all of those like shitty things that it spawned was the second I Know What You Did Last Summer. The one where the slashing takes place all at that like resort. The first one sucks because nothing happens, but the second one, like everyone fucking dies. And I think that one was a lot better. It's not great by any means, but I would say that that's outside of Scream 1 and 2, the only film that I like that of that like genre of horror is the second I Know What You Did Last Summer.
See, I did not like either of I Know What You Did Last Summers, but I will agree with you that 2 was better than 1.
Yeah,
I don't even think I ever saw the second one. I saw the first one, didn't like it.
If you want to see a good version of the I Know What You Did Last Summer 2, watch Broken Lizard's Club Dread. It's basically the same movie, but it's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny. By the way, going back for a second, just to tell you, the sequel to SLC Punk was called Punk's Dead. And the one thing that will tell you all you need to know is that it stars Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So, insert toilet flush sound effect here. He's in the movie, which just tells you everything you need to know. But then I guess the main...
You know what I'll say? I'm not defending him. I thought he did a good Tommy Lee in that fucking...
I will agree.
He was awesome in that movie.
Everything.
That's a role that's like tailor-made for him, being a fucking douchebag.
Yeah. Everything in that movie was good. Sniffing.
Are you really writing down the notes for the toilet flush? That's hilarious.
Come on, son.
And I guess the main character in that movie was the child of Trish and Heroin Bob. Like,
no, jeez.
We really need.
We didn't need
all
that.
Sure. Like, just leave it alone.
So Ren,
we don't have to make sequels for everything.
Rank Halloween movies end to end.
Jesus Christ!
I need to know your ranking. I know you have to have one.
Well, easily the top two are the first and the third one.
And the first and the third?
Yeah. If you don't like the third one, it's because you have a little dick.
Yo, the third one is legitimately the worst movie ever made.
You're out of your fucking mind. You're out of your mind. No, first.
Yeah, I can't sign off on this one, man. The third one, no.
The third one.
Apparently, we got little dicks, Gary.
But shit. So I went back and watched the second one recently, and I don't like it as much as I did before. So
the second one as just an extension of the first one. They're one movie.
Yeah, but the second one's just not as good. It's gorier, and the first one did. The reason the first one's so good is because it's so minimal. It's so effective at being minimal. Like, Michael Myers kills people, but you don't see, like, even when he stabs that guy and puts him up like on the wall, you don't see anything. It's all shadows, and he like looks at him and then he like walks away. Like, everything's done kind of off screen, or if it's done in front of you, you see a little bit of blood. The second one was like blood everywhere, and I think and Donald Pleasance was like drunk the whole time. So, but I don't know. Like, I love the.
I mean, gore and drunk. Like, I'm sold.
I really like the Curse of Michael Myers, but the director's cut, the 6th one.
Yeah, the director's cut is fucking perfect.
Like, you have to watch the director's cut. So that would probably be my number 3.
I don't think I ever saw the director's cut.
Then I would go to, or I would go. Actually, no, I might go with the new one.
The last one that just came out.
Yeah, the one that just came out. Then number 2. Then 4 and 5, and then H2O, and there wasn't another movie because Busta Rhymes was not in. That's like a what was that with Sinbad, the Shazam movie or Kazam? It's a Mandela effect that didn't actually happen.
I can guarantee you it did happen because I have it on my rack upstairs.
No, I saw that shit in theaters, and when he was
so did I.
Motherfucker, I was like, oh god damn it, that movie is so terrible.
Oh god,
that's the worst of them all.
What about the Rob Zombie versions?
Oh, so if we're counting those, I don't know. Like I don't trying to make the Halloween is to me is again not my favorite, but it's probably one of the, if it's not the best horror movie ever. Like you could argue that I would say in like terms of horror movies, your top one, like 3 best made, like effective, still holds up. Like Halloween's got to be in the top 3 with Psycho and Jaws. Well, and then The Exorcist. So I would say they're the top 4 that can be interchangeable depending upon my day. So Rob Zombie to me had an uphill battle right from the jump before he even made that movie, because how do you improve on perfection? Like it's an impossible task. I appreciate him trying to give Michael a backstory, but I didn't like the exploitation vibe that he used, like the white trash, like redneck family. I thought that was a bad move on his part.
It's just another Chainsaw Massacre trope.
But once he got into the actual like Halloween remake, like where he was going scene for scene, I didn't think he did too bad. But again, it's like, why do I need that? I already have the original to watch. I still think the original holds up. What's the point on this movie? So like I don't hate it. It's just a completely unnecessary film. I have friends that think the second one is like one of the best movies he's ever made, and I think people are crazy. I think the second one is legitimately, with the exception of 31, it's his worst movie that he's ever made.
So I have something to admit. I have never once watched either of the Halloweens, and I was waiting to hear you tell me whether I should be watching these or not, but that was the point of me asking you.
So I think the first one's worth watching going into it, knowing that he's not outdoing what's his face, John Carpenter. Like, but I think there's a lot of positives on that film. But the second one, man, I don't know. Like a lot of people give it credit because he goes off on his own. It's the first movie where it's his own sequel. It has nothing to do with any of the originals. It follows his own rules. Michael sees like visions of his mom, which to me is too much like Jason Voorhees. Right. And there's a lot of like weird like imagery that he uses and flashbacks to the kid, even though he's like the adult, like he's the adult Michael. He's like, years removed. He's a lot more vicious. Like he grunts when he's like, you hear like emotion a little bit in him when he's like,
he's supposed to be silent.
Yeah. And so like, so all of that is why I throw it out, because it's not, to me, that's not Halloween. Like even as much as some of the other Halloweens were bad, like when you get into 4 or 5, or you even get into like H2O and Resurrection, like it still followed the formula of how Michael Myers is supposed to be. It still felt like a Halloween movie, just not good Halloween movies. And I felt like Rob Zombie's second Halloween movie doesn't feel like a Halloween movie. He could have replaced Michael Myers with literally anything, and it would have probably made more sense as
I agree with you.
It could have been just a different movie, not naming it Halloween.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at just for my own edifice, just looking at the continuity between all the Halloween movies in general, and like, so we were talking about the newer Halloween that came out, which came out in 2018, which was 40 years after the original one, and it ignores everything else that ever happened.
Except for the first movie.
Movie.
Which is so weird. I thought that was a weird way to go with it. And
they have 2 more planned to finalize this. So
apparently they're filming them back to back. And
Halloween kills and Halloween ends.
I think they may have already been filmed, because I think originally
Halloween Kills was supposed to come out this past fall,
it was supposed to be out already. So I don't know if it was filmed and they've just been sitting on it, or if the filming itself got delayed because of Corona. But the original plan was that Halloween Kills was supposed to be out in 2020.
So my listing of what I would say is my favorites in order would be Halloween and Halloween 2. I hear your argument, but I don't care. I like them as one like entity. Then I like number 6, but as you said, the director's cut, amazing. Then I like the newest Halloween, then 4 and 5, then H2O, And then Season of the Witch and Resurrection are pretty even for me. Like, I won't watch either one.
So crazy that you don't like the third one.
The song in there is so fucking annoying.
Is that the reason?
So I get that the story is like a standalone story. They were trying to move away from Michael Myers. Like, I get it. When I first watched it, I was mad because he wasn't in the movie. Like, that was my initial hatred. Was like, where the fuck is Michael Myers?
See, to me,
the movie was
it's not a Halloween movie.
It's not a Halloween movie because it doesn't have Michael Myers in it.
Right, exactly.
But going back, I've seen it a few times. It's a good storyline. It's well executed, but that fucking song is so irritating that it makes me want to throw the TV out the window. And if that's how I feel, I can't watch the movie. I can't even sign on for it.
So Halloween Kills was supposed to come out October last year. It's delayed till October of this year. And the last one comes out in 2022 in October. Just
right. It was supposed to be last year and this year.
Yeah, it was delayed because of they didn't want to put it in theaters with the coronavirus.
So Gary,
it looks like they did film it because it says principal photography commenced in September 2019. So I don't know if they completed it, but they had at least started it.
Now, Gary, did you see Halloween 2018?
Yeah.
Okay.
I overall, well, first of all, let me get the Rob Zombie thing out of the way. No, I don't hate Rob Zombie in general, but I find that most of his movies, I haven't seen all of them, but I understand that he's a big horror fan, but it ends up that because he's such a big horror fan, the stuff that he does is very derivative. Like, you're remaking Texas Chainsaw Massacre again, which is pretty much what House of a Thousand Corpses was. And with Halloween, just like I think John said, or you said, I forget which one of you said this, but it was kind of like he was trying to make him more Jason. And it's just because I think Rob Zombie's such a fan that like that stuff runs through him, and he ends up kind of projecting it in these weird ways, and everything ends up being derivative. He's not breaking any new ground. Like the Halloween movies that he did, they weren't bad, but again, it's like I've seen this before. You know what I mean? So he's I would
go and argue that his first two films. I would argue that House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects are legitimately good films for the genre. Like obviously they're not going to win no like Oscars because they're exploitation films. Like they're supposed to be like kind of cheesy and over the top violent and stuff like that. I talked about this on like another podcast that I was on. His Lords of Salem film. I read the book of it and I loved the story, but the movie, and I at first I hated it, but now I'm starting to like appreciate it a little bit. He showed his like knack for like appreciation of like Fulci and Argento and whatnot.
Right.
And there's a lot of like Italian imagery in it, which I overall hate the Italian horror genre. I'm one of those, when you get into like when you start talking to like the elites of like horror fans, like when I say that, they're like, "Oh, how dare you!"
That's why I said really, because I'm just surprised because I've known a lot of horror fans, and you're the first one to say anything negative about any of the Italian stuff.
Yeah, there's a handful that I like, but overall, like I'm a notorious hater of it. But like I am starting to appreciate that Zombie isn't just an old school, let's watch low budget, only in the 70s, like in 60s horror films, because a lot of his films come off like that. Like you can tell that that's like his wheelhouse. Like that's the horror died in 1980, like in 1979 or whatever.
Yeah.
And his Lords of Salem movie is the first one that I felt where I'm like, all right, he's trying to expand himself. Like he clearly has a much broader influence than I thought he did. I just don't think he was effective in it. I think what he tried to do wasn't executed right, but I appreciate like the attempt because it was something different than just his wife spouting out, really like raunchy shit and Bill Moseley cutting people's faces off. Like,
right.
So I love House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. I still have yet to see Three from Hell because everybody that saw it basically panned it. So I was just like, I'm not even gonna.
That's one that I haven't seen.
It's not bad, but to me, The Devil's Rejects had an ending, and by having the third movie, you undo this like perfect Thelma and Louise type ending that the original had, like that The Devil's Rejects had. And to me, the end of the movie, it was like, for what? Like, why? Like when Three from Hell ends, I'm like, why? Like, why did we do this? Like, the movie itself is like okay, it's one of his weaker films, but to me, it seems once the movie's over and you have your end of this movie, I was like, well, what was the point? Like, why did we undo the great ending of The Devil's Rejects,
which ended perfectly
for this? And
that's why a lot of times I hate sequels, because a lot of times it's just it ended and it ended right. So why are you still?
Yeah, he should have totally let them go out in the blaze of glory and be done with it, and that should have been it. And like I said, the movie is fine. It's the weakest of the three by like a lot, but it's absolutely pointless to exist because I don't feel like the story gained anything by having this next 90 minutes of material that should have ended with them in the car.
Yeah, that's just that's one of the problems that a lot of sequels have. It's just, why are we beating this thing to death? If it doesn't feel right for the story, then why are you doing it?
Money.
He's also a victim of like the studios, I don't know. I would love to be a fly on the wall for his like negotiations with the studios, because that movie 31, which is the only movie we haven't talked about yet, when he did 31, he was really, really trying to get the Broad Street Bullies movie made that he's been trying to get made for like the last decade.
Yeah, I've always heard about it.
So apparently he has so much footage and so much like material like memorized about like the whatchamacallit, like he could be a curator for the Broad Street Bullies like museum. So he has this movie when he be made. He apparently went to pitch them the idea, like, all right, let's go ahead and go with it. Like, I'm ready to shoot this damn hockey movie. And they were like, no, you have to give us a horror movie. If you give us another horror movie, we'll do the. And he pitched 31 like on a whim, and you can fucking tell when you watch that movie. Like, he said it was like a passion project, because I know that they did some like Kickstarter stuff for it, like where if you like donated, you got your name in the credits, or you got you got some free shit if you donated like higher up. And he was talking about it being like a passion project, but the movie is definitely not a passion project, because it just goes through the motions. It's basically like a real gory like redneck version of The Running Man. Yeah, and like, I'm like, all right, I already know this story. And the only character that's really good is, and I can't remember his name, but they call him, what the hell do they call him? They call him some stupid name, like Psycho Head or some shit like that. But he's the guy that's on the cover. It's got like all his face is painted white, and he's got all the blood like running down his face. Right. He's the only character that's, I can't remember his name because I only watched this movie once, but he's the only character that's like redeeming of the whole film. And you have to wait until the end before you even see him. But I just think that the studios are like, give us more horror. Like, and I'm kind of like, why don't you just give this dude this fucking hockey movie? Let's see if he can do something that's not horror.
That's what I'd like to see, because he's already done the horror stuff. And don't get me wrong, with what I was talking about him being kind of derivative, I liked House of a Thousand Corpses, and I liked The Devil's Rejects. And let's face it, I'm a Star Wars fan, and nothing is more derivative than Star Wars. As much as I love Star Wars, you have to admit he's borrowing from samurai stuff, he's borrowing from Lone Wolf and Cub, he's borrowing from Dune, he's borrowing from all these other things.
John Carter from Mars.
Yeah, exactly. But Flash Gordon, the original serial, but he turned it into his own thing. So I'm not saying it's derivative necessarily as a negative, because you could be derivative but still turn it into something and make it your own. But for some of Rob Zombie's stuff, it just felt like it wasn't breaking any new ground. It was enjoyable for what it was, but it's not going to make my all-time top 10. You know what I mean?
I'm just happy when he put out House of a Thousand Corpses, they didn't try to relabel it just as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whatever.
Right.
Giving it a new name made it like something that you could focus on without having to directly tie it to the inspiration or source.
Yeah, because so many studios will do that. They're just looking to slap a name onto something, like Judge Dredd. When they did the Stallone Judge Dredd, it's like, well, we got a buddy movie, but yeah, can we change this into Judge Dredd because we have the license for it? Like, that's pretty much what that movie was.
Right.
And they've done that with so many other things where you see it doesn't really have an organic relationship to a franchise, but they just shove it in there, sort of like making a Halloween movie without Michael Myers.
All right, Ren, what do you like about that movie?
Which one?
The Michael Myers movie without Michael Myers.
The Michael Myers movie without Michael Myers?
Yeah.
Season of the Witch.
No, I think I like the story. I like the idea of it. Like, yeah, I feel like that movie would get a lot more credit from other people, and even probably people like you, if it wasn't called Halloween, if it was just called Season of the Witch.
Right.
Yeah.
If that movie came out when it came out and it was just called Season of the Witch, and they didn't try to tie it into, because I know that at the time they wanted to turn the Halloween series into like an anthology.
Right, where everything is a little bit different each time.
Well, yeah, because what would have been Halloween 4 wouldn't have been the return of Michael Myers. It would have been something else. And so I appreciate that. And like, it just removing those masks terrified me as a kid too. Like, that was part of the reason.
They were definitely creepy.
And you know what? If you go back and I feel like if you watch that movie again, which you say you won't, so this is kind of pointless.
It's the song.
But Gary, if you go back and watch the film, it feels it's shot. And like the score, not so much that music that's associated with but the score, like everything about it, like the way it's shot, it all feels like a Halloween movie. Like, to me, it feels very, it feels like Carpenter-esque, like with the way that movie like plays out and it's like laid out. Like, it just doesn't have Michael Myers in it. It has kids getting possessed by these fucking masks. But I don't. It took me a minute to like appreciate it, but it's one of my favorites now, and I still stand by. If you don't like it, you have a little dick.
Yeah, I would go back and watch it again. I don't have hate for it nearly to the level that Len does, but one of the biggest negatives about it is, just like we're talking about, that it's a Halloween movie without Michael Myers. So that's weird. That's the real. That was my big issue with it, because that's what you're looking for.
I did see The Curse of Michael Myers in the theater, and the theater that I saw it in is in the mall right by my house. The theater no longer exists. It's an eyeglass shop. But I remember going to see it and thinking, there are movie theaters that still exist? There's one. I went to the movies like right before Christmas. I went and saw The Grinch at the movie theater. Birthday party, London. Rented out the whole theater. It was $100.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks for ruining my joke.
Sorry. That's I'm a ruiner. I may not be the ruiner of everything, but I'm a ruiner.
Yeah, ruiner of everything's my wife.
Yes. There's a whole song about it.
Oh, Gary, you probably never heard that story. I tell it sometimes when Bottom Feeder used to play. My wife infamously made the mistake of asking me to write a song about her. So I wrote a song called The Ruiner of Everything. And it's just about this like bull in a china shop that ruins everything that they touch.
Oh, that'll teach you.
Yeah.
Don't ask me for another song.
Next time you think about, hey, you should write a song about me. Yeah, remember that. That'll learn you. Oh.
So I know that Evil Dead is one of your favorite franchises. The favorite? Is it the favorite?
The favorite.
It's a number one. Okay.
I have Bruce Campbell's autograph tattooed on my arm forever, so it's the favorite.
What if he signed his name wrong?
Oh, I'd be so mad. I wouldn't have gotten it tattooed.
I mean, hey, listen, maybe you just really like Bubba Hotep.
Yeah. Bubba Hotep's a good movie, but not.
I didn't watch it.
Not autograph worthy.
Well, Bubba Hotep,
yeah.
Highly recommend it. It's about a zombie that sucks the souls out of people's assholes to stay alive. and Bruce Campbell thinks he's Elvis, and Ozzie Davis is convinced he's JFK.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. It's it's so completely ridiculous.
Is it streaming anywhere, or do I need to borrow it from you? Because it's not like
I don't know. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but I mean, I have it.
I'm looking right now.
It's probably on like Shudder or some shit.
Yeah, I don't have Shudder, and I'm not paying any more money for anything.
Fair enough.
When I could just wait to see you, and you could bring it to me, and I could watch it, and then eventually give it back to you.
According to what I see here, it is available on Amazon Prime.
Ooh, I have Prime. There
Prime. You
go. All right.
Yep. Watch now. Included with Prime.
Cool.
So there you go.
I got something else to add to the list of shit I need to actually go ahead and watch.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend that. It's quite enjoyable.
So Gary, what's on your list of things you want to watch coming up?
Well, I got to finish The Expanse. We were talking about Cobra Kai. Mm-hmm. That's another one. What else is there? I have a list. There was a trailer that I saw for a movie that's coming out at the end of the month, the new Denzel Washington movie. Have you seen that?
Good. No, I haven't seen it.
I have to look it up and see what the name of it is, but it looks like it's a weird kind of serial killer type of movie.
Okay.
But the trailer kind of implies that there's more of a story to it. But I'm trying to pull up now. The Little Things, it's called. It's one of the movies that's going to go straight to HBO Max.
Okay, which
since Warner announced that they're putting everything that was supposed to go to theaters
straight there.
It's called The Little Things, and it has Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto.
Okay.
So it's like a trio of Oscar winners on the top of this cast.
Okay, I might have to watch this then.
Yeah, the trailer just came out, and it looks like Denzel and Rami Malek are cops it looks like, I think it's L.A., and they're investigating a serial killer, and Jared Leto looks to be the suspect, but something ain't right.
Well, he just ain't right, so it's fine.
There's some sort of twist to it. So that actually looks good. So I'm waiting. That's coming out January 29th. So there's that. There's also, since I'm a big Marvel guy, the new Marvel series WandaVision comes out next week, I think. And then beyond that, I have a few other things that I was looking to watch eventually, but nothing major that I could think of off the top of my head.
So I'm trying to finish Schitt's Creek because I started watching it and I just keep going back and forth. And like I watched a couple episodes and it's fucking funny, but like
I never watched it.
It's really funny, but like I just can't bring myself to sit down. I can't bring myself to sit down and watch the whole thing. I'm also thinking about watching The Umbrella Academy because a lot of people were talking about it.
That I liked. There's another show that's on HBO Max that's sort of similar vibe called Doom Patrol, which is based on a DC comic, which I liked but then kind of fell off on, and I'll eventually go back to it. But
I thought Doom Patrol was on Hulu.
It may be on both. It's definitely on HBO Max because that's where I was watching it.
Oh, okay.
but it may be on both, because you know how some of these things with rights get weird.
Yep.
But HBO Max, since it's Warner, they're committed to trying to get all the DC Comics related stuff. I think originally it was on DC Universe, which was DC's combination of a streaming platform, and they also had all the DC Comics on there too. And then they took it from there to HBO Max. But Umbrella Academy is good.
Okay.
I did enjoy it. I think there's 2 seasons of it now. It's kind of crazy that it's the dude from My Chemical Romance that wrote it.
Yeah, that was what threw me off of watching it to start with. I was like, nah, I don't care about this. And then enough people have told me about it that I'm now like, all right, maybe I'll go ahead and watch the damn thing.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. I like it. It's another one of those things, but I guess when you're into comic books like I am, everything is derivative because you notice every little thing. Because to me, it's kind of similar to the X-Men story, where it's a school and you got the one guy and a bunch of his students, but it goes in other directions, so it's enjoyable without being too derivative. But when you get to be my age and you constantly consuming this thing since you were in single digits, everything's going to be derivative. How many original comic book stories can you tell?
Right.
About a team of super powered people. You know what I mean?
So I'm like 6 episodes in on The Boys too.
The Boys is amazing.
Well,
I just didn't finish it yet.
Okay, you just proved me wrong, because I take it back. It's like, okay, how many of these stories can you see? But then you watch The Boys and you're like, whoa.
Right.
Well, Boys is the first one to make the superheroes assholes.
Oh, yeah.
That hadn't been done.
And let me tell you, well, John, you watched The Boys, right?
Of course.
Okay. And Len, I know you're not finished, so I won't spoil it for you, but
I don't care if you spoil it. It's fine.
As ridiculous as this show is, the comic book was 10 times worse. And supposedly,
Garth Ennis is a fucking madman.
I love Garth Ennis. And because Garth Ennis has done so many things, like his run on The Punisher was amazing.
Punisher Max is the best Punisher series there was.
Preacher was amazing, although the TV show didn't live up to.
And then you can't forget Crossed.
Crossed is another one.
Cross is fucked up.
But I was a fan of Garth Ennis from when he was writing Judge Dredd stories in 2000 AD. So that's how far back I go. But The Boys, perfect example. Like I said, it's hard to tell new stories. The Boys, they go in a total different direction. And like I said, as bad as the show is, the comic's worse. And supposedly they're going to take, in the next couple of seasons, however long that show lasts, they're going to go further in those directions to the comics, because there's some fucked up shit in those comics.
Well, I'm on board for it. I mean,
because you see, well, I mean, I'll tell you this, because supposedly they're going to work this in somehow. They have something called Herogasm. Which is basically an island weekend. You've heard of hedonism, right? Yeah. Well, imagine that, but for superheroes. Giant orgy, drugs, you name it. Just absolute fuckery for an entire weekend. And then you've got like all these superheroes participating in all this shit, just sniffing massive amounts of cocaine, fucking strippers, all kinds of wild shit. And they went on record, the guy who I think is the showrunner said that they're going to dip into that in the next season, and I'm like, oh my god, how can they even get away with this?
Because it's not really on TV, so they can do kind of whatever they want.
Oh man, it's so out of control. I will say they've gone in other directions, which often happens with comic book stuff, because The Walking Dead went way off the path of the comic book long ago.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped watching The Walking Dead at this point. I don't even watch it for like shits and giggles at this point. I'm like 3 seasons behind at least.
Yeah, a lot of people are. I still enjoy it. It's not as good as it was, but the source material is unmatched. The original comic is just so good and so crazy, and that's another one that, as wild as it gets on TV, there's stuff that they could not do on the TV show from the comic. And they're testing that with the boys now too, because there's stuff that I have said I don't think they could ever do with the boys, and they've
done it and then some.
They've gone even worse with some of it. But
so the reason I actually started watching The Boys was just because Elizabeth Shue is in it.
Right.
Like literally, as a little kid, when she popped on the screen in Karate Kid, I was enamored with her. And then she was in Back to the Future 2 and 3.
Right.
And she was in Adventures in Babysitting. So I've had this crush on her basically my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I was 8 when Karate Kid came out. I saw it in the fucking theater. So, like, when I saw she was in it, I'm pretty much, if I see she's in a movie, I'm going to watch, or a TV show, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to give it at least a look.
Right.
So I saw she was in The Boys, and then everybody else had been talking about The Boys, so I'm like, watching it. And literally the first 2 episodes, I was like, holy fucking shit. This is like, this is what I want to watch about superheroes. It is so off the beaten path.
Oh, it's so out of control. And I was so worried about it because such a big fan of the comic, and I didn't hate the Preacher TV show, but I don't think it lived up to the comic. It definitely didn't hold my interest the same way. And I thought to myself, because I think it's the same team working on it.
Okay.
And I was just like, I don't know. But then I watched it and I was like, wow. They
all I know is Elizabeth Shue is 57 years old and she would still get it.
Yeah, she's big.
Wow, she's 57? I didn't realize she was 57. Holy shit.
Yep.
But
if you're listening to Elizabeth Shue, you're still a babe.
But yeah, The Boys is so wild. So wild that I can't wait to see where they go with it. But they've done it so well that I enjoy it, and I'm all for it, because everything, just like I was saying, and then like I said, you took it in the other direction and proved what I said to be completely false. That you think you can't do any different stories when it comes to superhero titles and things like that, and then you have superheroes as complete and total narcissistic assholes.
Well, the key is that they're not using the original superheroes' names. I mean, we all know who they're talking about,
right,
when you're watching it, but it's not specifically tied to it. It's just the aura of that
right
person.
It's knockoff characters, basically, because they obviously don't have the rights to use the real characters. So
right,
yeah, there's no way the real entities are giving up those names to be in that show.
Oh, they changed it just enough to not get their asses sued off.
Yeah, barely enough.
But just barely enough. Because I think when it came out, I think they might have even dabbled in it. Actually, if I recall correctly, I'd have to look it up, but I think originally the comic book came out. Yes, it was originally published by Wildstorm Comics, which was a division at that point of DC. But after 6 issues, DC was like,
no.
Yeah, DC was just, although I'm not sure if that happened. I'm checking now. Yeah, it was abruptly canceled after issue 6 by Wildstorm, because DC Comics was uneasy with the anti-superhero tone of the work. So from issue 7 on, it was with a different company called Dynamite Entertainment. So
Okay.
so originally it started as a division of DC, under a division of DC, and then they were like, yeah, we can't fuck with this anymore.
We can't do this. So, John, what's on your list of shit that you want to watch coming up?
In the immediate future, I want to see, there's this movie called Promising Young Woman that's out. I want to see The Green Knight.
About? What's
I don't actually. So these are the things. A lot of these are just recommendations amongst friends. My one friend went and saw Promising Young Woman recently and said that he doesn't know if it's his favorite film of the year or he absolutely hates it because it was so intense. Mm-hmm. So that alone was like, well, I'm going to go see. I have no idea what the fuck the movie's about. The Green Knight is I don't know if you want to call it. I guess you could call it fantasy. But A24, who puts out Hereditary, Midsommar, right. All those are putting out this movie called The Green Knight with Dev Patel. It was supposed to come out this year, but obviously everything got postponed because of COVID. That's supposed to be coming out soon. I do
A24 is pushing out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Before you finish this list, and I want you to get back to it. Midsommar. Did you? I mean, I know you watched it.
Yeah, opening night. I loved it. Did you,
Gary? Did you see it?
Did not see it.
Okay. I love the movie. I also love the movie. Same concept as Hereditary in that every scene is shot almost perfectly, but there are just a couple scenes in the movie that are so fucking brutal that I'm just like, yo, this movie is out of fucking control. And did you see Mitchell's post where he was trying to shit on that movie? And I'm thinking to myself, that movie is above his head. Like, he's my friend and all, but like, he clearly doesn't understand the topic.
Yeah, I walked out of that movie feeling like I needed to go take a bath. Like, I just was like
so gross feeling at the end of the movie.
And there's 3 movies that are like that have that feeling where you're just like, ugh, when you like leave, like you need to go like wash the coat of like dirt off you. Mm-hmm.
Sort of like Blair Witch 2?
Well, no, actually, there's 4 movies. I don't know if they're all on A24. I would say The Witch, Hereditary.
Oh, dude, The Witch was so good.
Yeah, Midsommar, and there's a movie called what the fuck was it called? It Comes at Night.
I didn't see that one yet.
So It Comes at Night.
I think I saw that. It
Comes at Night's one of those movies that when it ended, I was like, I'm going to go leap off of a bridge now. Because it's horror.
Yes, I did see It Comes at Night. I think I actually saw that in the theater.
Yeah, I thought it was like some like monster movie, and it's completely not. I mean, I guess you could say the monster's in you, but like I thought it was a monster movie when I saw the trailer for it because the way they advertise is a lot differently. The way the movie plays out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it's another one of those slow, like you're like, oh man, it's fucking coming. I'm ready for the sledgehammer to my heart. Like, let's just do this. And those movies to me, like those slow, work your way up to it. Mm-hmm. Like that's the best way to do a movie for me right now. Like, why? I mean, I have to be in the mood for it, but I feel like they're so effective if you can pull off that slow burn well enough, like, and the payoff is good. Oh, chef's kiss.
Yeah, because I watched Midsommar. I didn't watch it in the theater. I actually watched it just sitting on my couch, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago in the middle of COVID. And I was like, all right, I guess it's on TV, it's free, I'll watch it, whatever. And I was literally stuck to the screen the whole fucking time. At times I was like, don't fucking do that. No. Yeah. But otherwise, I was like completely silent because it was just, there were so many spots in that movie that are so fucked up.
Yeah. And I love that it takes place completely in daylight. Yes. It's a horror movie that takes place in the sun.
Which makes it even more weird.
Yeah.
So, all right. So what else were you planning to watch?
That was the stuff that's like recently. There's a few movies that people recommended through that's on like Shudder and whatnot that I have to go back to that I can't remember off the top of my head. And then obviously with all the big movies that are supposed to come out this year, like Ghostbusters, like I'm ready for it. Like there's a whole bunch of like those films that are coming out that I'm waiting for. You know, we'll see whenever theaters open back up. But I'm for right now. It's like the first time in a while that I haven't really been too connected to the movie scene right now, because I'm like really trying to get over this hump of not being able to do anything for a year, and I'm trying to like hammer in because apparently my races are a go this year, and so
I've been kind of like, do that.
What?
How are they going to do that?
So Iron Man has had like 4 races already, and the protocols are way different. It's a little bit annoying for the racers, but it does happen. They just limit crowd sizes. There's not a lot of people that are allowed at like the finish line because of that's usually where everyone packs in. They apparently like local law enforcement and volunteers are ushering people away, and then when the races itself, everyone's spread out. Once you get through the initial like start of the race, everything's spread out the whole time anyway. And apparently all 4 of the races that they've had so far, no one has come back tested positive from the race. Like they can't trace it to the race.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I'm hoping that more and more people are vaccinated come July and Lake Placid allows us to race, but everything seems to be all systems go. So my mind is kind of like, okay, well that's what I'm doing. And I've been more focused on that than paying attention to movies. And then Cobra Kai came out, and I binged Cobra Kai in like 3 days.
Dude, I finished it in one day. I started it in the afternoon, then I had some shit to do, and then I finished it that night laying on the couch. I just breezed right through all 10 episodes. It was like 5 hours of my day, not wasted, but wasted on Daniel LaRusso and
Johnny Lawrence.
Yeah, Johnny Lawrence. I'm going to tell you right now, Gary, you're going to love him.
It's 2 seasons, right?
It's 3
seasons.
3 seasons?
And honestly, if they dropped season 4 tomorrow, they were like, hey, guess what? We told you we were going to give you season 1 on the 8th, but we moved it up to the 1st because we're going to give you season 4 on the 8th. Here you go. I would be all in, and I would waste another 5 hours of my life watching the show.
So you know, I looked up on when season 4 is supposed to come out. They apparently
like 2
have
years, right?
Well, no, they have 8 episodes like done, like to the point where they could shoot them. They said that they just have to finish out like the last like 2 or they said about 8 episodes that are filming ready, and then they have like 2 or 3 they said to like wrap up and flush out the story, and then they're supposed to start shooting in a couple months. The goal is obviously to have it out this time next year.
Okay. Wait, this time next year, so like at the turn of the year.
Like basically January 1st of 2022.
Okay.
Well, that's good. They're not trying to kill you like The Mandalorian, because The Mandalorian is going to be at least a year.
Yeah.
At least a year. They're talking about it won't start until 2022.
Well, they have like a fucking million shows now that they've like that they dropped in that show.
Yeah, that's true. They're just Disney Plus got that crack. They're like, they got you sitting there itching like, yeah, you got any more Star Wars shows?
Yeah, here we got 17 more coming.
Yeah, we got 17 more, but you got to wait just a little bit longer.
Just hold on one more day.
Just a little more. Shit is torture.
So, I don't want to kill Cobra Kai for you, but I feel like John, they're gonna finally tell us who Tori's mother is in season 4.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling I know who it is. It's one of 2 people.
Well, my guess is, because they're doing so many nods to the other stuff, is I wouldn't be surprised if season 4 is a real throwback to 3.
Well, I'm seeing season 4 as a throwback to 3 and the next Karate Kid.
The one with Hilary Swank?
I'm saying Hilary Swank is Tori's mother.
Huh. So I would have leaned a little bit maybe that whatever the girl's name was in the third one, the friend, because she couldn't be the girlfriend because she was actually 16 and Ralph Macchio was like 30. Right. So they couldn't have them kiss on screen. So she just became like the friend.
The redhead, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other person. So that, as I said, there are two people who I think it could be, and it's either going to be Hilary Swank or the girl from the third movie. It's going to be one of those two.
They're trying to tie in all kinds of stuff like that.
Dude,
really?
I'm telling you, the whole show is a tie-in. They give you a whole new story, and they still pay homage to all the originals.
And you're going to like.
Dude, I popped.
The cliffhanger of this season is like, oh, I know what they're doing. Like you'll pick up. I'm not going to spoil for you at all, but you'll be like, oh, I know what they're doing with the next season.
I knew what they were doing like early in the middle of, like, I would say like episode 5 or 6. I was like, I know where they're going on the next season.
Okay. But yeah, I'm not hating. It's just much like what I said about that show, The Expanse, which I had to catch up on 4 seasons. This is like 3 seasons. It's like, I know it's going to take me some time, and that's why I keep putting it off.
If you're sitting around and you just want to watch something fun and like smile, laugh, like, and enjoy yourself, and you're not looking for something heavy, that's where you should start.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so it borders on that like reality and corniness at the same time that it's just like it feels like the old stuff. It has very much the 80s feel.
Right.
Like if I don't know how many like new fans are going to appreciate it because of the corniness. We love the corniness because we fucking live the 80s, but like that, like they that's what it's got for me. Because Johnny Lawrence is fucking through and through the 80s. Send it to the internet. Like, hash brown YouTube. Hash brown Cobra Kai.
Oh my God. This is so good, dude. So good. Oh, man.
And you know what's funny about that show? I just found out recently that they came from 2 pieces of like pop culture. There was some like shitty like pop punk band had a video called Sweep the Leg where William Zabka was in it and he directed the music video, and it was like he just kept getting like shit on, and it was trying to in a way like show that Johnny wasn't really the bad guy, like he just was like a victim of his own like idiocies. And then there was a story where someone kept saying that Daniel LaRusso was really the bully. And it ended up going.
I heard that.
That like fandom like theory ended up coming on to How I Met Your Mother, and they made the joke on How I Met Your Mother, and from that joke and how like that episode apparently was such a success on like it's like a fan. If you watch that show, it's like a fan favorite episode. That's got the producers or the writers of Cobra Kai to be like, yo, we should do a show based on that Johnny's like the good guy. Like he's an idiot, but he's the good guy. And that's literally where it spawned from. A joke about Johnny Lawrence being the good guy, and this stupid pop punk video ended up spawning what is now the Cobra Kai series.
So that came out on YouTube Red back like a couple years ago. And I watched the first episode and I loved it, but because it was on YouTube Red, I didn't buy a subscription, so I just never watched it.
That's why I never jumped on it initially either.
And then when it hit Netflix, I was like, all right, I'm in. It's free. I'm in. Easy. And I watched the first 2 seasons in like 3 days flat. Just blasted right through in my extra time. I was watching it while I was working. I was watching it while I was editing for this show. You know, I was just anytime I had just watching it, and it's fucking hilarious. It's fun. Like, it doesn't take itself too seriously, which is exactly where they needed to put it. Like, if they had done that and done the show and like made it serious, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna check it out.
You should check it out. So
if I do another one of these podcasts and you haven't watched it, Gary, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
You're gonna threaten to fight him again?
You're gonna fight me?
I'm just gonna run around until you're tired and then push you over. I'll sweep the leg. There we go.
You'll have to. What I really want to do, and I've mentioned this before, and Wren might be down with this, is I really want to take an episode one day where you guys watch Planet of the Apes and we talk about it.
All right.
Planet of the Apes?
Planet of the Apes.
So the original one?
The OG, not the Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, no, I've seen both.
Yeah, the Mark Wahlberg bestiality one's the best. No, I'm just kidding. That's not even good. I can't even make that joke.
You know what? I didn't hate the Mark Wahlberg one.
I did.
And oddly enough, if you've read the original book, the Mark Wahlberg one, especially the ending, is closer to the original book than the classic movie. Which seems weird, but the twist to that, by the way, that a lot of people don't realize is that the person who wrote the script for the original, it was based on the book, but the person who wrote the script and added the extra twist to it was Rod Serling.
Really?
Of Twilight Zone fame.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Because that's a classic. I mean, if you watch it, it's really, it's almost a 2-hour episode of the Twilight Zone with the twists and everything. But it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I would love to do a full discussion about it.
Well, if you have an idiot like me doing it, it'd be like MST3K.
I don't actually hate Marky Mark.
I don't hate him either, but that movie's bad in my opinion.
It could have been a lot better. I didn't hate it. And again, like I said, as weird as it seems, it was closer to the source material in a lot of ways. But I think they could have done much better with it.
Now, are you a fan of the other ones? The ones with Andy Serkis and where he's Caesar?
Yes, I do like those. I think I'm a fan of the entire franchise. The Wahlberg was kind of a step in a different direction and doesn't fit into the canon, so we kind of leave it to the side. Although, like I said, I didn't hate it. But the newer ones, the Andy Serkis stuff, it's all they've said that it's all canon, that it really leads into the classic movies. That there's nothing that makes it a different timeline, that it all is technically one single timeline. They haven't negated it in any way or spun it into its own universe. They haven't tied it together tightly. They've kind of left it open for interpretation, but there's nothing that separates it. Much like if you watch Westworld, there are hints in Westworld, especially season 1, that hint that it's actually a sequel to the original movie. If you watch, because
I didn't watch the original movie yet, so
okay. But John, did you see Westworld, the series? Okay.
Yeah.
You know how they go down into the old area downstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that fountain that's down there that's turned off, that's all, dusty, everything's dusty down there. That fountain was in the original movie.
Oh. It's been a minute since I watched the original movie. Yeah. I just remember the Man in Black's face,
right?
Turning into a robot and that being like the.
Well, Westworld, as much as I will go on and on about how I hate remakes, one of the great things about Westworld, and I was a fan of the original movie, is that it's one of those things where the technology has caught up with the story. So now they're able to tell the story better than they were back then. Michael Crichton is one of my favorite authors. He wrote Westworld, the movie. He wrote Jurassic Park. He wrote Congo. Yeah. He wrote all that stuff. And Westworld actually is one of the first instances of what you would consider to be a computer virus. Because the guy was a doctor, and he became a writer, and because of his perspective as a doctor, he had he was kind of a visionary when it came to a lot of future stuff, because he also wrote a book called Prey that was about nanotechnology and nanobots and things like that before that was common discussion. And if you look at Jurassic Park, that was about cloning before that was common discussion. So Westworld, that movie came out in the 70s. Who was talking about artificial intelligence back then? Not that many people. Yeah. So the whole idea of the original Westworld was that you had the robots that were the entertainment in this park, but one of them somehow gets corrupted and goes haywire. So it was kind of a computer virus that did that. So the new Westworld on HBO was just a continuation of that, but now the technology has advanced so much that here you are in modern times, and everybody's talking about robots and things like that, and it's progressed so much that the story is actually better now. You know what I mean? And you're able to tell the story, but then it's also got a little bit of a religious undertone to it also, like the idea of the creator and stuff like that. So to me, it was really interesting and a really good way to update that story. Because a lot of times they remake these things. What's that?
And the perfect timing to do it.
That's what I mean. Because now with the way the technology is, you could tell that story and it really grabs people, because it's really not that far from a lot of the things that we deal with
on a regular basis.
And things that are being talked about when you see robots programmed to dance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So
it's just the story is more effective now than it was back in the 70s, which that's rare.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, when I started watching that show, I was like, holy fuck. The whole first 2 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into, because, as I said, I didn't watch the original. I have never watched it. So it's fresh.
And you don't have to, but the original is a nice little embellishment, just because it's like reading an early draft. Because now it's so much more fleshed out with the way the technology is advanced since back then, that now you're looking at it and you're just like, holy shit, this is crazy, because we sit here talking about artificial intelligence all the time in the modern world, and here's a theme park based on modern intelligence. And it's funny because Crichton, I don't want to say he's cookie cutter, but in some ways he's just took the same idea and recycled it a couple of times, because Westworld was, okay, we've got a park with robots that go crazy. Jurassic Park is, okay, we clone some dinosaurs and they go crazy.
Right.
And Congo was the whole thing with gorillas and they go crazy. And looking at his books, Prey was nanobots and they go crazy. So
he's just using the same trope over and over.
It kind of, but it still tells exciting stories, and it's not repeating itself. But as I said initially, as much as I'm anti remakes and reboots and all that shit in general, because a lot of times you just don't need to do it. Westworld was different because it spun off of the advances in technology and tells a new story. And it's fascinating. And it's really well written and well done. And one of my biggest fears about it was that it would end up being like Lost, where it has a bunch of these things that you're expecting to pay off, and in the end, none of it pays off.
It's all a dream. They were in purgatory.
Right.
Yeah. Bro, I watched Lost, and I'm not going to say I watched the show. I watched a few episodes, and I knew immediately this shit ain't for me. Like, I hated it immediately. I think it was 3 episodes in, and I was like, this is the worst show ever created. Yet it went on to have multiple seasons and people just verbally sucking its dick over and over and over again. And I don't get it. Like, with the small amount I watched, and sure, I haven't watched the whole thing, so maybe it got better. I doubt it. I just don't understand how it got this far. If it was me and somebody put that on my desk, I would have canceled it before I put it
out. I'll say I enjoyed it. It got weird at times, but I still enjoyed it. But looking back at it now, I wouldn't have bothered with it because the ending was such a letdown.
I don't even know what the ending was. Like, I legitimately have no clue.
I just said it. They were in purgatory.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they don't even explicitly state that. In the end, there's so many mysteries that they built up over time. Like, what's the smoke monster? What's this? What's that? And in the end, you know how many of those mysteries they finally answer and reveal for you? Very few. Most of them stay fucking mysteries, and all that payoff that you're waiting for. Like I said, with Westworld, I was worried about it. With Lost, all the payoff that you're waiting for, at the end, they just end it and are like, yeah, fuck all that. They don't answer any of the questions that you had.
So what you're saying is they were dead and they were in purgatory?
The island was like some sort of like holding ground, whether it's purgatory, a dream state, like a what, but basically that's what it was.
It's heavily implied.
Yeah.
So it's dumb. Like all of your interest in all these mysteries that they plan, like what we were talking about with Star Wars, where you plant the seeds and they come to fruition later. Like they planted all these seeds and all these mysteries that you want to know what it's really about, and in the end they just run the thing off a fucking cliff.
You know what? I'm going to take it back. This is the greatest show on earth. They gave you nothing. They took your time, they took your attention, and they gave you nothing. Yeah,
they tease you with so many things, and in the end, they're just like, yeah, you know what?
Good day, sir.
Fuck
yeah.
At least with that, they just ran it off. They ran it off the cliff. They didn't hit a bunch of walls before they ran it off a cliff like Game of Thrones.
How dark is that movie, though? Willy Wonka? I watched that movie as a kid 1,000 times. But as an adult watching that movie, I'm like, what the fuck kids movie is this?
It's real fucked up shit.
Well, I mean, it was so dark that it like basically inspired Marilyn Manson's like whole like first half of his career. Like that's how fucked up that movie was.
Oh my god, yeah, it's pretty like yeah, they're gonna roll her into the juicer.
Yo, all right. As a little kid, the scene on the boat where he's singing and everything is spinning.
There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, dude. Fuck. Talk about scenes that fucked me up. That scene fucked me up as a little kid.
That's when you
I would the heads off of chickens and shit in the background. Like, what the fuck? Like, that was a kid's movie?
This is what happens when hallucinogenics get into Hollywood.
Yeah.
But it is still one of the greatest movies I've ever watched.
Oh, it's great. It's just when you look at it through an adult eye, you realize, like, this is some fucked up shit.
Movie.
There's some real fucked up shit. Like, Grandpa didn't want to get out of bed for how long, but just show him a golden ticket, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, let's go.
Dancing and shit.
Fucking asshole.
Yo, who has 4 relatives in one king-size bed for 20 years?
Apparently the buckets.
Yo, bro. You know how bad that room smelled?
Not bad enough for him to get up until there was a fucking golden ticket involved. Fucking lazy bastard.
And I hate feet. I don't want anybody's feet down by my face. Like, what are we doing right now?
I don't even like my wife's feet. So if it was some fucking other couple's feet, oh, God.
Oh,
I'll lose my mind.
Nope.
Absolutely not.
Just leave me outside in the gutter.
Well, who's going to give their candy factory to some asshole kid anyway? There's just so many problems with all of this.
Well, we gave our candy factory to a fucking idiot.
I guess it's because he's the least asshole of the kids. Like,
I guess so.
That really helps.
But I mean, he even broke the rules.
I know. They all broke
damn it! Drank that fizzy lifting drink.
Yep.
At least you didn't eat the gobstopper. At least you didn't shove your fat face into the fucking chocolate river.
You didn't demand that you wanted it now. I want to Oompa Loompa now, Daddy.
Just be like, all you kids, just get the fuck out.
But I am still curious what a snozberry tastes like.
Well, man, what does a snozberry taste like? The snozberries taste like snozberries.
Who ever heard of a snozberry?
Yeah, like, you mean to tell me that kid got stuck in that pipe and didn't fucking die?
No, he definitely died.
Augustus, rest in peace, Augustus Gloop.
Oh my God! It's just
that's not your status when you get off this call. You've already failed.
But yeah, you're right. It is such a fucked up movie if you sit there and really think about it. Like, listen, if they made Fantasy Island into a horror movie, they got to make Willy Wonka into a horror movie. Come on.
It kind of was when they did the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny Depp.
Yeah. But I'm saying, just go all in.
Full on death scenes.
Yeah, like gore.
Just kill the kids. Fucking old bastards.
Gore. Go
my TV
full
actually
gore.
just explodes into a million pieces.
Just have Willy Wonka kill a couple of the kids. You're a real asshole, you know that? Boom.
And an Oompa Loompa doesn't misbehaves. He just kicks it off of a bridge.
Well, now let me make this real weird for you, okay?
Okay.
Have you ever seen the movie Snowpiercer?
No.
Yeah.
Now, okay, Len has never seen it, so he wouldn't.
Go ahead and do it, though.
John, did you ever hear the theory that Snowpiercer is a sequel to Willy Wonka?
No.
I mean, this came out a couple of years ago, and it's really weird and crazy, but somebody made a video about this, and then a couple of other people started expanding off of it. But it was just the idea that Snowpiercer was a sequel to Willy Wonka, and that what's his name?
You're talking about Chris Evans?
Not Chris Evans. What's his name? Was on Westworld also. Why am I spacing out his goddamn name? Ed Harris.
Yeah.
Because Ed Harris is in Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
But that the idea is that he's a grown-up Charlie. It's really weird and way out there.
Yeah, because I don't know that Charlie would have a never-ending movie or moving train that's like based on like classism. Like
Well,
that wouldn't fall in line with like Charlie's personality. That's the reason that Willie gave the Chocolate Factory over to him, was because he was going to break that. He wasn't part of the classism. He was, but he was like the lowest rung.
Yeah, but he did still have asshole tendencies.
Yeah, but I think they were innocent asshole tendencies. Like the sneaking the fizzy lift and drink really wasn't like, give this to me now. Like he didn't grab things. He never,
Right.
And the fact that he didn't, take the gobstopper. Like, I don't know, that I'd have to really read into that theory to see how it connects, because I'm sure some lunatic put it together, but.
Oh, sure. But, I'll read you a little bit here. Both films are about a group of people who work their way through a fantastic structure full of unseen perils. One by one, someone is removed in each room until one person makes it to the very end, and the last survivor finds out that the entire thing was a test because a wealthy industrialist needed to find a new successor. And the idea is that Wilford, the inventor of the train, is a grown-up Charlie Bucket. Seems way out there.
Yeah, that's lunacy.
If you watch, there's definitely stuff on YouTube about it, but if you watch it, it's just crazy enough that it's like, maybe it could work.
Well, they say, like, there's a fine line between genius and crazy, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's not any crazier than.
Are there tickets in
no,
there's no tickets in Snowpiercer.
There's no tickets in Snowpiercer. Just a really long ass train
that never stops moving.
Yeah. It's weird and it's way out there, but it's one of those things like, once again, you put hallucinogenics in Hollywood. Well, in this case, you put hallucinogenics out there for people on YouTube, and they come up with some crazy ass theories.
Well, I mean, that's just in general what happens on the internet.
That's what YouTube is for. But there's enough interesting things to look into. And like I said, if you're listening, just go to the Google machine and type in Willy Wonka Snowpiercer, and there'll be a bunch of articles and a bunch of YouTube videos talking about it. And it's a really weird thing. Almost as weird as the whole Dark Side of the Moon Wizard of Oz thing.
I'm trying to remember what it was that I saw Ed Harris in that I absolutely loved, and I can't remember off the top of my head.
I mean, he's been
in a million things,
so much, but he's been
History of Violence. That's what it was.
Oh yeah,
that movie was fucking amazing.
Yeah, that was good. Most people don't know that was based on a graphic novel. Comic books coming through again. But he's so good on Westworld. I think he won a couple of awards for Westworld. But I mean, you're still early on in Westworld. When the payoffs come, you'll see just how good he really is.
Okay.
Because Westworld gets pretty weird, and when you realize his role in the whole thing, you're like, holy shit. But yeah, he's been in so many good things over the years.
He started acting in 1976, which was the year I was born. This motherfucker's been acting my whole goddamn life.
That's a long ass time.
It is. Fucking old.
Yeah, his first role was in the movie Coma, according to what I see here.
I hope he just laid there.
TV. He was on TV on a TV show.
Oh, that's right. He did TV before that.
Yeah, for a couple of years.
Yeah.
He's on some show called Gibbsville, which I have no idea what the fuck it is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. But
no, I'll never know because I'm never gonna go actually look into whatever the fuck it was. But I can see it. I can see it on the list.
Yeah, Gibbsville. I don't know. Sounds weird. I just looked at a quick description. It's got some. It's about two reporters in a Pennsylvania mining town in the 1940s. Like, doesn't exactly sound like captivating television. but it didn't do well. They only aired 6 out of 13 episodes and pulled the plug on it pretty quickly. So, oh well. Yeah, they had 7 episodes that never aired because there were no DVDs back then.
No,
you could put it out, but
no direct to TV, no direct to anything. It's just it's either out or nothing.
6 episodes canceled.
Bye.
that shit was thrown in the trash.
Your shit's sitting in some archive somewhere, never to be touched again.
Pretty much.
John Wren, got anything you want to plug?
No, I mean, there's nothing going on. Selfish Lover on Bandcamp, Spotify, whatever. I think it's half of it's like Selfish Lover XOXO. That's the Instagram handle. Selfish Lover at Bandcamp, Selfish Lover on Spotify. The album is called Voluntary Human Extinction. I don't think there's another Selfish Lover out there. I don't think anyone was dumb enough to name their band that. So that's the only thing I would plug. Check that shit out. That's the new project.
All right.
Awesome.
11 songs, barely 12 minutes of music. It'll only ruin your life for a little bit.
Unless you hit repeat, and then you can just continue to ruin your life.
Very true. Well, it's been fun, gentlemen.
Appreciate you being back on.
Yep. Thanks for coming on.
We'll catch you soon.
All right. We're good. That is The Upgrade. TheUpgradePodcast.net. We will catch you again soon. Peace. Thanks for listening.
Take care, y'all.
Later.